Canto 2. Cal stood before a giant lady from one of the Art Nouveau prints he sold online. Everything was clouds and rose gold light. Even upon inspecting himself, he seemed bathed in the perfected glow. The lady herself was majestic. In one hand she held a flaming torch, in the other a monarch butterfly had lit on her finger. She was smiling at the butterfly when she turned her attention from the monarch to Cal. "Do you wish to meet me?" she asked. "Am I not meeting you now?" Cal questioned back. Smiling again, the lady slowly shook her head. "You've been saved by my guide and are currently asleep in the space between life and death. If you wish to really meet me, you are to heed my guide. Every word." "None of that makes sense," Cal confessed. The last thing he remembered was the ghost of his grandfather wanting to possess him. If this lady was a dream, that must be also. "Heed her and follow her way," the lady repeated, "and then you will meet me." "Oh, okay," Cal answered because he had no idea what else he should say. Then for good measure, he added, "Thank you." "Good," she said in a very final tone. "Now wake up." Quickly breathing in, Cal sat up with a start. He was not in his shop. That much he knew. He needed to find his bearings. He looked around to see he was someplace very rocky. There wasn't a plant in sight. His immediate thought was around the Grand Canyon in Arizona, but he immediately dismissed that option when he realized it was all rather flat, and the rock was far darker than the reds and yellows of the canyon. Anyway, he lived on the East Coast, and the canyon was on the west. Not being able to figure out his location, he considered the time of day. Only there was no sun, and no apparent clouds to cover over it. Instead, the sky was a dark gray something. It wasn't sky. It wasn't nothing. It just was. It was like everything was the light source, but not like the objects, but the objects were somehow lit. It was like the light itself was a fog that simply hung in place. It gave him an unsettled feeling, making him feel slightly nauseous. Then he saw her. In the distance was the woman sitting on a rock and facing away from him. She appeared to be taking a call. Then she stood and quickly began walking towards him. "Well, now you've done it," she yelled over to him as she approached. "Congratulations! You're a breather in the in-between." "Oh, what in the... Where am I?" Cal asked, knowing she said it, but not knowing what it meant. "In between," she enunciated. "You're not in life, but you're not in death. Do you normally grab strange gals you've just met?" A litany of questions was filling Cal's brain. Some were practical, like, at what point did he fall asleep during a really good novel? That was more of a hope because it meant he was dreaming. Some of his ideas were outlandish, like, was it possible he had been abducted by aliens? Some were just curiosities, like how did this woman make a call when he couldn't see any device in her ear and she didn't appear to have a phone? All that came out in 3 words. "The in-between?" "Right," she answered like he had been the one to answer. "And guess what? You're not supposed to travel the way I do, so I can't just pop you back in your shop." The woman ran her hand up her head in aggravation. Looking up as she did it, throwing her hands down, she defiantly placed them on her hips. "Who are you?" At least this one was an actual question instead of a statement like a question. Really, he wanted to ask, how she was different from him. How could she travel in a way that he wasn't allowed to travel? Sophie, didn't I tell you that already? Popping down in front of him, she inspected his face. She looked at him like she was checking for damage. Finally, in answer to something, even if it was something he had the least amount of concern for at the moment. Slowly, Cal shook his head. Sophie mirrored his negation. Well, she continued as she authoritatively stood, nothing we can do for it now but go through hell to get you home. Go through hell? Images of demons flaying skin and burning lakes of fire flashed into his thoughts. How am I supposed to survive going through hell? He imagined another demon with a hook ready to pull Cal's organs out through his belly button. Whoa there, Sophie said. Calm down. Calm down, Cal yelled. Calm down? I can't go through hell. Then the other questions came out like a dam had burst. Is this a dream? Have I been dreaming? None of this makes sense. I went to read and I must have fallen asleep. Then there was you. And I am so stressed over making a profit at the shop that I imagined my grandpa as a deranged ghost. And this. What the hell is this? This place doesn't even make sense. Where's the sun? Why do I feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere? And what about you? You look human. Are you, what did you call it, a breather? Concern filled Sophie's face as Cal talked. She sat down beside him. Look at me. Confused, Cal just erratically shook his head, but he did stop speaking. Look at me, she said more intentionally, and Cal did. I'm not human. Well, let me take that back. I was once. I had a dad and a mom and all those other things breathers do. Then I died. Sophie's eyes glazed over for a moment before returning to her story. I died and went to hell. While I was there, God gave me a choice. I was offered a job, and I took it. I'm a soul collector. I go between realms, putting lost souls back where they belong. Apparently seeing something good in Cal's gaze, Sophie stretched. Let's see. The in-between is like limbo. It's the space that exists between the living and the dead. It doesn't make sense, and if you try to make sense of it, it could make you sick. As for hell, it's probably not what you're imagining. And even if it was, you're a breather. You're not their job, so they'll just leave you alone. Even if all of what she was saying was true, which Cal had no way of knowing one way or another, he had no way to know if he could trust this woman. Even if he could trust her, just the thought of seeing all that torture froze Cal's mind with fear. Listen, Sophie continued after once again inspecting Cal's face. While you slept, emissaries from heaven contacted me and told me to take you through hell and purgatory. They told me the next soul I was commissioned to deliver was you, to the gates of heaven. Remembering the dream, Cal also remembered what the lady had told him. Listen to the guide. Only to the gates? Sophie sighed. That's as far as I can take you. I can't enter heaven. It's beyond my jurisdiction. She gave a quick, self-approving nod. The point is, why would God walk you through something that will overcome you? Have more faith than that. Right. Cal felt a confidence like the one he felt telling the guy his watch would only sell for $20. Okay, let's walk through hell. Hold on there, cowboy. Sophie checked her watch. We will go to the gates, but we'll have to make a stop at the house. It's just inside. The house? Cal questioned, trying to picture what a house in hell would look like. Yeah, we're going to need my husband's help to get you past the entrance, and I just need to talk to him. She then quickly glanced at her watch before dropping her hand beside her. Time is limited, so we better get going. Standing up, she put her hand out to Cal. Now a little more intrigued than frightened, Cal took her hand, and once standing, they made their way to the gates of hell.